Hi, I'm David Boop, Denver-based author and editor. Uh, I edited three Weird Western anthologies for Baen, straight out of Tombstone, straight out of Deadwood, and straight out of Dodge City. I am also an author of Weird Westerns, having written, give or take, 30 or 40 that have been published so far, all set in a fictional world called Drowned Horse. It's in the Arizona territory, and it's a cursed town. That town, what's the old way they say that? Should not be mistaken for any towns I may have lived in for 2 years while in Arizona. And the fact that I consider them both cursed is purely coincidental, and don't sue me. So anyway, thank you all for attending this today. I really appreciate it. I know that in the COVID world that we're living in, things like the virtual conventions mean that you have to take, time away from your family, which is usually buzzing around you at any given moment, to come sit down and listen to a reading. So I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart you guys coming in to listen to this. I'm going to read two passages for you today from two different anthologies that have come out recently. The most recent, is from Six Guns Straight from Hell, edited by David Riley and J.A. Campbell. This is obviously the third in the series. I've been fortunate enough to get stories in the other two as well. But this just came out a little while ago, and I'm really excited about it. The other one I'll be reading from today actually is an interesting project that Kevin J. Anderson put together with his class. He's now teaching at, I think it's Mountain State College or something like that. And he has an editing class. They put together an anthology every year, and this was the first one. Monsters, Movie, and Mayhem. Both of them, again, set in Drowned Horse. So I'm going to read small bits from each of them, just to kind of whet the appetite, as it were. And I'm going to read from Six Guns first. And the reason I'm going to read from Six Guns first is this is earlier in the timeline, and then the other one's much later in the timeline. So I'll give you kind of an idea of what goes on in Drowned Horse. So, and you'll hear more about it in the story, so I won't have to fill you in right now. So, this story is called The Metal Skins, and it's from the point of view of two characters, Martha, who is a Yavapai child, based actually on a real character, a real person from the time period. There are actually several real people in this particular story, so I did a lot of research on them. And he has discovered that somebody is disguising themselves as natives and going out and attacking settlers. And he's like, this isn't us, this isn't us. And he tries to get some help to help prove that it's not his people before the soldiers come in, as they do, and cause trouble for his people. But what I'm going to be reading is actually Sheriff Levi Forrest's point of view character in this. And he'll give you a little bit of better sense of what's going on in Drowned Horse at this time. So the Metal Skins. Despite the newly christened Arizona territory having been open for expansion a year, it hasn't produced many settlements as of yet, I said to no one. The town of Drowned Horse is one of the few, a lone oasis in the dusty red earth of this godless land. The owner of the Sagebrush, Drowned Horse's only saloon, chose that moment to walk through the door of my office. He looked around, seeing no one else but me seated behind my desk, feet propped up and hands behind my head. I tilted my hat back until our eyes met. Sheriff, may I inquire as to who you're talking to? I grinned. I'm just testing out an idea. I'm considering writing an article about the wonders of drowned horse. Maybe get some of that East Coast money coming this way so I can hire a deputy. Owner made a sound from his gut that clearly told me what he thought of that idea. Levi, you know that isn't a good idea. This town, well, it's special. We really can't risk new blood being spilled around here. Place is troublesome enough as it is. Darn it, owner, we need new blood. Every woman who comes to town arrives as someone's wife or daughter. We need a school marm or something. Let my feet drop and sat up straight. And before you go offering one of your girls, they're nice and all, but I'm looking for a lady who is a little more wholesome. Owner smirked. Demure. Your ladies can cuss, drink, shoot, and fight better than any man I know. Heck, I've considered bringing them on as deputies. You should. I imagined it for a second and then waved it away. Nah, tough as they aren't really up for the stuff that I have to deal with. If this was a normal town, owner, if this was a normal job, owner pulled my only other chair away from in front of the desk and sat in it. And this was a normal town, then I'd risk a lady deputy, but not yet, not until the curse is lifted. Seeing that owner sat down, I sat back in my chair and sighed. Who knows what thing's going to slither up from the ground? And since no one knows how to break the curse, I have a notion that I ain't going to leave this town alive. That gets a guy to thinking, how he might not want to be alone at the end. Owner smoothed the black vest he wore over his white shirt. The man's head had been shaved clean as long as I've known him, and only his bushy brown eyebrows indicated what it might have once looked like. Levi, so what you're saying is you want to make a widow of some poor soul? I hated it when he cut to the truth like that. It's why I didn't drink at the Sagebrush. Too much truth ruins the taste of the whiskey. Footfalls hit the planks outside in rapid succession. Someone, no, two someones, ran like they raced death himself. I unhitched my sidearm, and owner swiveled his chair, laying his own piece on his lap so we could greet the newcomers. I recognized Al Johns, a liaison of sort between the military and the Yavapai out in the valley. Sheriff, need help. Al could barely get the words out through his dry throat. Owner got up for a pitcher of water I kept by the cells. You know them, Levi? Owner, meet Aloysius Johns, Indian agent, a former mountain man who made enough deals with the Yavapai, the Apache, and the mixed tribes thereof that when the government set up Fort Whiffle in Prescott, they brought Al here to negotiate treaties and soothe the savages, as it were. All he seems to do, though, is tell the locals what they want to hear, knowing that the government won't actually do a damn thing about it. Ain't that right, Al? Al nodded sheepishly as he accepted the water and drank heartily. Half my job is keeping the delicate peace safe without starting another Indian war. Neither Al nor I are able to do enough to make anything better. Owner handed Al's young companion a glass as well. Al, finally able to better enunciate his words, spelled out, Metal skins can take off their heads, disguised as Indians, killing travelers. And there's the other half of your job, owner guffawed. I didn't like the smug way he said that, but damned if he wasn't right, though. The boy standing behind Al had long black hair and a small mole near his left cheek. He didn't breathe nearly as hard, but his nervous eyes darted around my office. Twice they settled on the jail, and I could deduce he was afraid of me. He waited patiently as Al told us most of their story, but I had a notion the kid knew more than the negotiator did. Why don't you both grab a seat, I suggested, and explain to me what I gotta go kill. So, um, it's a fun little story. All right, so the next one, again, give you a little bit of a introduction here. So, Drowned Horse takes place over a long period of time with three separate acts: the Sheriff Forced years, the Lawless years, and then the final years before the town is eventually destroyed. No big surprise; it's not there anymore, so it had to be destroyed, right? But this cursed town draws people in, usually people who have a bit of darkness within themselves. Some of those people use that darkness to fight the darkness, and some people become part of the problem. One of these characters that I bring in later on is a guy named Hal Turk. Hal Turk is a bounty hunter. And when I write his introduction story, he ends up getting his eye injured by a lost tribe of Mayans. It happens. And he can't really be a bounty hunter anymore. So he's looking for something else to do. And he hears that the stakes are good in Drowned Horse and decides he's going to go there to basically take stake in faro tables and maybe some poker tables and stuff like that down the road. But faro's the game that they're playing at this point. So he has a translator, tracker, partner, Diaz, that he picked up along in his travels, and they've just arrived at Drowned Horse, thinking that it's a boom town, but they're in for a little surprise. As it turned out, Drowned Horse was not nearly the boom town Turk and Diaz had heard. Quite the opposite. The notion that word travels fast didn't figure in the distance from Arizona to Pennsylvania. The Jerome mines had indeed taken off, but so had the new town of Jerome, reneging on its promised prosperity of Drowned Horse. Others such as Cottonwood and Clarkdale also sprung up in the area, siphoning off potential growth. Plus, as Turk and Diaz discovered soon after arriving, there was the curse. Curse? Turk asked the owner of the Sagebrush Saloon, the only saloon still open in town. He hadn't gotten the owner's name, but everyone around just seemed to call him owner. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that in the letter I sent you. Owner's head was as smooth as a river rock. A long graying mustache draped down to either side of his mouth, which currently held a smile. But I'd inquired about you before replying to your request, and it seemed like you were the sort to be able to handle a touch of dark in your life. Indeed, Turk had run across more evil than there was to believe. Diaz crossed himself upon Owner's initial proclamation, but seemed to have settled in with the notion. In what way, Senor Owner? How does this curse behave? Owner, who wiped the bar and talked about the macabre as if it was just bad weather, explained, "Oh, we get the occasional demon or mythological monster from time to time. Hell, we recently had ourselves some aliens from Mars or some sort. I can't rightly remember where they said they were from. Cost our current sheriff his right arm, but he shoots with his left, so no worries there." Turk looked at Diaz, who looked back at his partner with an incredulous expression. Why would anybody come to this town, let alone stay? Was the only response Turk could think of. Owner tilted his head slightly and with a straight face answered, "The challenge, of course. Haven't met a settler who didn't think he was smarter than the devil himself." As if that said it all, Owner asked if Turk and Diaz still wanted the offered table stakes as originally planned. Turk considered his options. He and Diaz could leave for another town nearby, or maybe continue on to California, where they would also have the ocean to their backs, or go south to Tucson or Tombstone, each which came with their own set of troubles. But then Turk thought of Owner's promise of the potential for danger. Being in a cursed town and all could be the hook he could use to his advantage. Maybe this was destiny calling, giving him what his soul really needed. Turk leaned over to Diaz and whispered an idea which made his partner chuckle. Well, we're going to need to increase our share, Turk finally told owner, and we'll want to advertise in such a way to draw miners back into town. Gamble at the sagebrush, where the winnings are worth betting your life on. Turk waved his hands as if the words were written on a banner. Owner reached down and pulled out a contract that already had Turk's adjusted share filled in. I thought you might say that. Diaz sucked in breath. Senior Turk, we should have asked for more. Zhu Jun, known to the people of Drowned House as John Chu, because Guelo did not bother with pronunciation of his name correctly, carried an armful of clothes he had gathered from the line outside. The young man felt grateful the weather had been mild enough to dry clothes outside. His wife, Ling, hated having Westerners' clothes draped over every surface of their apartment, which sat above Jun's shop. She understood that working for the greedy Guelo rail bosses had given Jun enough money to bring her over to America. She also accepted that washing disrespectful Westerners' clothes kept food on the table, but that didn't mean Ling had to like any of it. Jun, on the other hand, liked most of the citizens of Drowned Horse. He had heard the stories of how immigrants were treated in other towns, especially the bigger cities. His people were called many derogatory names and spat upon. However, the worst thing he was called by his neighbors was Chewy, which was not too bad. Jun climbed the back stairs to the room they had to themselves. His wife had not produced any children in their time together, which suited Jun. While he would have appreciated appreciated the eventual extra helping hands or someone to leave the business to, their small room was crowded enough with ironing boards, extra wash tubs, and supplies for the shop below. The one thing that seemed to please Ling was Jun decided to open a stable behind the shop. It only housed 3 horses, but as a child back in Zhonggao, Ling had ridden horses. She had been the daughter of an influential and wealthy politician. Despite Jun being a common stable boy, Ling fell in love with him like the story in the books. Unfortunately, Ling's father married her to a horrible man. Jun knew she would not be happy. He came to America to make money to bring her over, knowing the risk he was taking. Finally, when he had enough, he found her and stole her away. He knew one day Ling's husband or father or brother might seek them out, but for now, they were happy. Ling, he called from the top step, can you open the door? June, she cried out urgently. Jun had never heard her so scared. Come quick! Not knowing what else to do with the clothes, he tossed them over the railing and rushed inside. Ling sat on their bed, a scroll and an arrow lying on either side of her. This was on the door to the shop, she explained. A broken wax seal remained intact enough to see the insignia. He expected to see the crest of Ling's husband or father, but it was not. From your brother? Ling nodded. He says that our father has chosen to work on improving relationships with a Raiban, but instead made things worse. That did not surprise Jun at all. Everyone knew that war was coming between his country and the one the Westerners called Japan, and that war was only a matter of time. Brother says word reached Emperor Meiji that I had fled to America and that he has sent his Akuma to capture me in hopes of weakening my father's position. Just the sound of the word set chills down Jun's spine. The legends surrounding the Japanese emperor's secret assassins, also known as shinobi, were terrifying. Their mystical powers were unrivaled. If they had chosen Ling as their target, Jun did not know what to do. Ling's brother had taken a great risk sending a messenger to warn her. Jun knelt by his love. I will get help from Sheriff Patrick. He will know what to do. He has faced many such demons. He will protect you. Even if I can't, Ling nodded. As June got up to leave, he could not help but wonder how Ling's brother had found her so easily and were Meiji's demon assassins close behind. So, two bits of stories from two anthologies, which are both now available on Amazon. Sorry, we're not in person where I could just like sell you a copy in person, sign it. But both of these anthologies are really great. I mean, not only, let's not just talk about the story that I have in there. I mean, you're going to get stories from Jonathan Mayberry, David Gerald, Julie Frost, Sam Knight, Steve Rasnick Tem, James Hearn, Irene Radford. There's a lot of good ones in movies Monster and Madness. And, Six Guns 3 also has a Sam Knight story in it. And not a lot of other people I recognize. However, I will call out this. Julie Campbell has a story in here as well. But what's really cool about this one is I actually somebody I went to high school with got a story in there, Matt Hellman, and has a really great story. So he's kind of new on the scene. So if you like a story, you're gonna have to look it up. Well, if you like any of the stories, please support the authors by looking up their stuff on Amazon or indie bookstores, ordering from Book Bar or any of the others in the area. So Tattered Cover and so forth. I guess that's kind of my time. I really don't have much else to tell you other than I am doing a live panel coming up. I believe it is on Saturday on editing. So maybe look up on the schedule, find me, and you'll hear a little bit more about my other personality, my persona as editor. So thank you again very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and guys, all stay safe out there. All right. Thanks.